Recently, there's been a lot of buzz online about how empty Chinese airports seem. Videos posted by people from different regions show massive airports with beautiful interiors, but shockingly few travelers, even in some of the larger airports. For example, a traveler in Guangdong complained, "Wow, there's no one at the airport. Oh my gosh, I've never seen an airport this empty before. It's just the two of us going through security." In Shanghai, someone pointed out Pudong Airport's international section is noticeably quiet. A person from Inner Mongolia shared, "This has to be the most deserted and eerily quiet airport I've ever seen. There's only one plane at the entire airport. The waiting area is huge, but it feels totally empty. So cold and quiet." A Beijing resident posted about Daxing Airport, where the number of people was shockingly low. In the era of aviation-driven economies, airports have become essential hubs for major cities. Alongside high-speed railways and subways, China has been in a rush to build more airports. By the end of 2023, there were already 259 civilian transport airports in China. According to the Civil Aviation Administration's 14th five-year plan for civil aviation development, the number of civilian transport airports will increase from 241 in 2021 to 270 by 2025. This means that by the end of next year, China will add another 11 airports. The 14th five-year plan refers to China's national planning period from 2021 to 2025, during which the government sets goals for economic and social development. For many big cities, one airport isn't enough to satisfy their ambitions. But it's not just large cities that are eager to build. Smaller cities are also catching up. Data shows that over the past 10 years, China has built more than 70 new airports, 41 of which are in county-level areas. Some provinces have even achieved airport access for every city, and some have set the goal of airport access for every county. Airports are, of course, important. The main motivation for local governments to build airports is to improve transportation, making travel and logistics easier. Adding a new airport not only improves the regional transport network, but can also bring significant economic benefits to some areas. International organizations have estimated that for every dollar invested in civil aviation, there is an eightfold return. For every million passengers an airport handles, it generates economic benefits totaling $130 million and creates around 2,500 jobs. However, in this rush to build, many issues have come to light. Currently, most small and medium-sized airports in China are operating at a loss. Since airports are considered infrastructure, losses are somewhat expected. However, the problem arises when airport construction doesn't match actual demand. In such cases, the return on investment isn't 1 to 8, but more like 8 to 1. A typical example is Fuyuan Airport, often referred to as the most deserted airport in China. Located in Heilongjiang Province in the northeast, Fuyuan is China's easternmost city, so the airport is also called the East Pole Airport. It's not far from the city, only 23 kilometers from Fuyuan's bus station. Fuyuan Airport originally opened in 2014, operated by a single airline, offering routes to Beijing, Shanghai, and Harbin, the provincial capital. Statistics show that the airport handles fewer than 1,000 flights per year, averaging only about 3 flights per day. Fuyuan also has a route to Khabarovsk, Russia, but it only operates 3 times a week. In 2018, Fuyuan Airport had fewer than 60,000 passengers for the entire year, with fewer than 200 passengers a day. Due to the low number of flights and passengers, airport staff have little to do, leading to a very relaxed work environment. During the off-season, some say there are more employees at the airport than passengers. Many online commentators joke that the staff seem to be on vacation. A few years ago, there was also media coverage of an airport in a prefecture-level city in Hunan province, which only saw 19 passengers in a single day. This low traffic makes operating the airport a constant financial loss, but closing it would be a waste of resources, yet keeping it open puts a strain on local finances. To keep these airports running, some places have resorted to extreme measures. In Shanxi, the local government even issued a directive requiring government employees to prioritize air travel for official business. However, such measures are simply unsustainable. In addition to small cities struggling to maintain their airports, there have been several instances of abandoned airport construction projects. For example, a user posted a video of Hanjiahe Airport in Shanxi, which has been left unfinished for years. The project had an investment of over 300 million yuan, about $42 million, and covered about 300 acres. The airport is now overgrown with weeds, and the abandoned equipment is rusting. The user wondered why the project was left incomplete, lamenting the waste of such a large investment. One of the most well-known abandoned airport projects is Pinggu General Airport. In 2023, the Pinggu County Transportation Bureau in Henan Province invested 300 million yuan, about $42 million, to purchase 5,000 drones from an AI company for the airport's operational needs. However, reports revealed that Pinggu General Airport began construction in 2018, with a total planned investment of 247 million yuan. So far, 127 million yuan has been spent, but the project remains incomplete due to financial difficulties faced by the construction company. Pingyu Changda is a state-owned enterprise fully controlled by the Pingyu County Transportation Bureau, responsible for the construction, management, service, and operation of Pingyu General Airport. In other words, due to financial difficulties, Pingyu Changda halted the airport project for 3 years, but then suddenly spent 300 million yuan to purchase drones for the airport. Interestingly, the amount spent on the drones even exceeded the total investment in the airport project. This incident quickly ignited public debate. Some revealed that the funding came from a fiscal transfer payment, with money collected from Zhejiang being used to foot the bill. As one of China's poorer provinces, Henan relies on assistance from wealthier provinces. Some online commentators speculated that Pingyu County might have used the contract to swallow a big piece of the pie, suggesting a darker truth behind this deal. This situation raises a broader question. With the already dire state of airports in China, will the continued construction of more airports lead to an even more unmanageable situation? The answer seems to be yes. Reports suggest that overbuilding airports has fostered corruption within the Chinese bureaucracy, providing opportunities for officials to engage in dishonest practices. Some officials have openly admitted that when potential investors are invited to a region, their main concern is whether there's an airport to transport products quickly. As a result, local governments feel pressured to build airports, as having a large, impressive one makes the city appear more competitive. This means it's not just about supporting transportation and industrial development, but also about local officials fulfilling performance metrics. Airports are tied to economic development as well as the political achievements of government leaders, who benefit from attracting investment. The more construction projects there are, the more opportunities there are for personal gain. In addition to corruption, wasteful spending has become increasingly severe. According to documents like the interim measures for the management of subsidies for small and medium-sized civil airports, the central government provides subsidies to airports as part of their infrastructure support. With financial backing, local governments are even more eager to build airports. They not only race to start construction, but also aim for high standards and luxurious facilities, contributing to overbuilding and underutilization. As early as around 10 years ago, Li Jiaxiang, then head of the Civil Aviation Administration of China, raised concerns in a report about the role of civil aviation in adjusting the economic structure and transforming the growth model. He revealed the overall profitability of airports nationwide, explaining that airport runways, aprons, and terminals are mostly built by local airport construction companies, which in turn incur debt. Out of 200 airports across China, only about 50 are profitable, with the rest operating at a loss. The root of this issue may lie in the current airport management system. Li also admitted that some small airports were not being fully utilized. He said, "We build airports with great enthusiasm, but the comprehensive planning hasn't kept up. Airports remain empty, with no hope for consistent flights." Experts have also found that when it comes to the number of airports, there isn't a strong correlation between airport distribution and the level of economic development. For example, Guangdong, China's most economically advanced province, has 9 airports, while Sichuan, which relies on transfer payments, has 17. On the city level, Suzhou, an economic powerhouse, doesn't have its own independent airport, while Ganzi, Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture in Sichuan, has 3 airports. Suzhou, one of China's richest prefecture-level cities, ranks 6th in the nation by GDP, with a permanent population of nearly 13 million, but the dream of having its own airport remains unrealized after 40 years. Residents still have to travel to nearby Shanghai or Wuxi to catch flights, a fact that's a source of frustration for many locals. Experts point out that airport construction is not a magic solution for driving economic and industrial development. The 1:8 input-to-output ratio for civil aviation is based on scientific planning and efficient operations, not merely on building airports to automatically generate significant economic growth. Rushing into construction without proper planning can lead to various negative risks. Airspace resources are limited, and airports have a wide area of influence. Building 2 airports too close together can result in a diversion of traffic. When airport construction becomes a political achievement, regional competition may escalate into unnecessary rivalry, potentially sparking conflicts over airport planning, layout, and resource allocation. A notable example is the competition between cities like Suzhou, Nantong, and Jiaxing over the location of Shanghai's 3rd airport. In some places, airports are built larger than necessary to promote suburban development or cater to the city sprawl. However, they are often located far from city centers, making transportation to the airport inconvenient. Passengers may spend only an hour flying, but take 1 to 2 hours just to reach the airport, significantly affecting their travel experience. On one hand, airport construction is booming, with cities of all sizes rushing to build, using airports as a symbol of development. On the other hand, many small and medium-sized airports are struggling, with low passenger traffic and heavy reliance on subsidies to stay afloat, or even teetering on the brink of closure. Another issue is that central government subsidies and relatively low investment costs for small and medium-sized airports have led some regions to impulsively start construction without assessing passenger demand. This ignores the long-term cost pressures of ongoing operations. Moreover, in the current economic climate, overbuilding projects like airports is pushing China deeper into debt. In January, Reuters reported that Beijing had issued notices to heavily indebted local governments in 12 provinces and cities to delay or halt some state-funded infrastructure projects, including the reconstruction and expansion of highways, airports, and urban rail lines. As local governments have long financed major economic projects through local financing platforms to meet GDP growth targets, they have accumulated enormous debts over the years. These debts are said to exceed 100 trillion yuan. According to data from the International Monetary Fund, China's local government debt reached 92 trillion yuan, about $13 trillion by 2022, accounting for 76% of GDP. In 2023, Chinese local governments had to continue issuing bonds to ease debt pressure, seeking to extend or refinance maturing debts. Chinese media reported that in 2022, the total amount of local government bonds issued reached about 10 trillion yuan, about $1.4 trillion. Since October, over 20 provinces and cities, including Guizhou, Tianjin, Yunnan, and Anhui, have issued over 1.3 trillion yuan, about $180 billion, in special refinancing bonds to repay existing government debt. Observers believe that in 2023, China invested as much as 23 trillion yuan in infrastructure, double the 11 trillion invested in real estate, accounting for 18% of China's GDP. Moreover, following the pandemic, there was a proposal to invest 40 trillion yuan, $5.6 trillion in large-scale infrastructure to boost the economy. But the sudden halt of projects suggests one reality: local debt has become uncontrollable. The confluence of central government debt, local debt, and real estate industry debt has pushed China, the world's second-largest economy, into an unprecedented debt crisis. In addition to frequent issues with airport construction within China, the country has also faced challenges abroad. On November 12 last year, the New York Times reported that Nepal had begun investigating possible corruption involving the construction of an international airport in Pokhara, the country's second-largest city, financed by the Chinese state-owned company CAMC Engineering. According to earlier reports, the company had inflated the project's costs and prioritized its own commercial interests, with little pushback from Nepal's Civil Aviation Authority. Following the report, Nepal's Commission for the Investigation of Abuse of Authority raided the Civil Aviation Authority's office in Pokhara and seized documents related to the project. The anti-corruption agency stated that the investigation was in its early stages, but it had already received more than 20 complaints about the airport's quality. Columnist C.K. Lal, writing for Nepal's Kathmandu Post and Kantipur, told Voice of America that there are claims that the project's costs were exaggerated several times over to benefit those in power in Nepal. There are also complaints about the inappropriate choice of location. These allegations may be subject to investigation. Nepal considers this airport a national pride, viewing it as a gateway to the Himalayas, one of the country's most famous landmarks. Investigators were informed by engineers at the airport that the quality of construction had been compromised, with weak infrastructure and work by CMAC Engineering failing to meet international standards. The report also noted that the Pokhara Airport is one of the projects under China's Belt and Road Initiative, and this investigation is just the latest in a series of criticisms facing China's overseas infrastructure projects. Given that the airport currently operates as a domestic facility, combined with a lack of interest from Chinese airlines and no prospects for regular international flights, it is unlikely to generate enough revenue to repay the Chinese loans. Despite the absence of scheduled international flights, Nepal has already begun repaying the loan to the Import-Export Bank of China, stipulated in the loan agreement. Experts have thus suggested that airport construction should be approached rationally and pragmatically, avoiding hasty decisions driven by political achievements or over-ambitious designs. Officials should not assume that building a grander airport will automatically enhance a city's image or boost reputations. This is particularly true for smaller cities and counties in Nepal's central and western regions, where economies are heavily reliant on financial transfers and have limited capacity for self-sustaining growth. For such areas, uncontrolled enthusiasm for large-scale infrastructure projects could ultimately lead to deeper difficulties. In light of this, many observers believe it's time for the rush to build airports to return to a more rational and measured approach.